This landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO classified. UFO classified. No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Well, good evening, my friends, and happy Fantopia Friday. I hope that you had an absolutely fabulous Thanksgiving, and I hope that you are going to have a great Thanksgiving weekend. I have spent the day reflecting on gratitude and what I am most grateful for. And I will tell you, I've gotten a little teary-eyed at times, and I'm going to try not to do that right now, but I am very, very grateful to all of you for supporting me and for being here week after week. You have no idea how much it means to me to get into chat and to see Jeff and Tom, who, by the way, is an amazing author. He's written 2 books that you need to get. I'm just going to give him a little plug. They are here. East Coast UFOs, Volume 1 and 2. You need to get those books. And, just so many other people. Susan, UFOs, Northwest, all of you mean so much to me. And I feel that slowly but surely we are going to make positive change. And I know that each and every one of you who listens to my show is intelligent enough to understand that this is an incredibly critical issue. And there has never been a time that we have seen that is as important as right now. And for each and every one of us, it is vital that we turn to each other for support, that we look away from outdated organizations who are doing nothing but profiting and who are stuffing data into the who knows where files, and really taking, in my opinion, people who have contributed a great deal and want to learn more in this subject, and they're pushing those people in the wrong direction, and we need to make change, and we're doing that. All of you are doing that, and I'm so proud to have you as my listeners. I really, really mean that. I want to just announce again, a few weeks ago, I had John Greenwald, who, as you know, is a brilliant researcher and has one of the biggest online archives in the world, the Black Vault. He announced for the first time on my show that he had formed a new investigative organization. And the very, very cool and important thing about this investigative organization is they will have a public case file database. And let me repeat that, a public case file database. Whoa, imagine that. Again, this is something that MUFON does not do. They have you pay memberships, and even for state directors or field researchers, unfortunately, even they don't have access to all of the data because it's being put who knows where. And as we watch MUFON and see there are more teams being developed that have privy to the data when state directors and field investigators don't. And that data will probably never be made available to the public. And in my opinion, that is truly despicable. And I urge all of you who are involved in an organization like that to spend your money donating it to good research, donating it to, or getting equipment like MADAR, where you can set up this unit at home and get readings that will help all of us, people like Fran Rich Vitello. We're going to do this. And through John Greenwald and the Black Vault investigations, through MADAR, we are going to make a difference. And I mean this. So I just am grateful for all of you. And this is an exciting time, but it will take some diligence on our part, and it will take some bravery. One more thing while I'm talking about this. I also feel it is incredibly critical right now when we have all of the news about the sexual harassment in the forefront in our country, that we also, in the field of ufology, take a stand and demand better for our field. Right now we have organizations or researchers or Facebook groups who openly support racism, sexism, and bullying, and this is not right, and this degrades our field. So I urge each and every one of you to stop supporting or listening to radio networks who have people who are in charge of the network who are known racist, homophobes, bullies. I encourage all of you to stay away from Facebook groups that encourage that behavior and don't call it out. And I think that we can make a difference. I know we're going to make a difference. So anyway, thank you for listening to that. This is, as you can tell, I'm really passionate about this, but we deserve for this field to be taken seriously, and we're going to do it, and we're doing it together. My guest tonight is someone who I mentioned on my Facebook page when I was talking about the show. He is someone who is very intelligent, and I've been watching him for a long, long time, and I've noticed his comments, and I reached out to him. We both reached out to each other a while ago, and I've had several candid conversations about what is taking place in our field right now. And to me and to Chris Wolford, who is going to be coming on as soon as I quit talking, but he understands the gravity of what's taking place in our field right now. And he also has done a lot of research that most of you don't know about, and we're going to learn about that. And I want you to remember his name, and I want you to reach out to him and learn from him, because he is brilliant, dedicated, and he's got a lot of information for all of you. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I like I said, it's cool for me to find people that I trust, that I respect, and that understand what's going on right now. And there is some really heavy stuff going on.
Definitely. There's some manipulation going on. There's some sort of operation taking place. I don't take that lightly. I do feel very strongly that there is some sort of operation going on multiple fronts. I don't know exactly if it is to just draw out information and or just continue to muddy the waters, or is it just a combination of all the above? I do not know, but I do know that there are certain people that have come out of the shadows, so to speak, and have infiltrated some groups and some, I wouldn't say people, but I guess some people, and they're trying to make their way back into the limelight, so to speak. So that's troubling right now.
That is troubling, and I think it's interesting, and I want to stress this again. I've done this on several shows, and you and I have talked about this, but when people out there pounding their chests and demanding that we're taken seriously in the scientific community, and these are the same people that are not questioning someone's identity, I think, are you freaking kidding me? I mean, that is, I mean, I put my name out there, you put your name out there, and when you don't, I don't care what your career is. We're all doing this. So put your name out or hide behind anonymity and, make sure you're keeping your opinions to yourself.
Yeah, but too many people in our field right now look up to these people. I don't know why. They put them on a pedestal, and they think that their information is, A, not suspect, and 2, it's needed, when it's really, A, we don't know where that's coming from. We don't know who that person is.
Exactly.
And the validity of it, I can't go and, I guess, verify that 100% that person isn't getting his information or their information from another source that is spookish, as I would say.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And I think, I've sat back and I've, watched some of these goings on and watched the people who are champing at the bit, and we need to be taken seriously, and but then they do this kind of stuff, and I just think I'm to the point where, and I think you are too. We're both frustrated, and just think, if that's the kind of idiot behavior you're going to put out there, and you're not going to be smart enough to ask important questions that would be relevant in scientific research, then I'm not going to take anything you say seriously.
Exactly. And I don't know why people do, but they do. So it's okay. I mean, I guess there's got to be yin and yang, There's got to be that balance of good and evil, I guess.
Or Dumb and Dumber.
That's true too.
It's interesting. I don't know. It's like, I think you could write like a whole season of Dynasty. I mean, we could have like our own ufology.
Yeah, it's better than WWE.
Oh my God, it is, honestly, and that's the thing. I mean, this kind of stuff is so demeaning, not only to the people like you who have had profound personal experiences and who are looking for answers, just like me and just like everybody listening, but it really it muddies the water, and it's unfortunate. And at some point in time, we need to step back and look at the bigger game, and then ask questions, and then disassociate from people who could be attempting to either data mine or steer the narrative.
Yeah, that's the hard part, though, because there's so many people, an influx of new-ish people to our field who are interested, who've seen something, or a family member has seen something, and they're just wanting to go on this journey to try to figure out possibly what they themselves and their family members saw. And they're going to the source who saying, look at me, I'm the loudest person in the room, I know what I'm talking about, I'm an expert, listen to me, but don't listen to anybody else, because their information, their knowledge is null and void, because they have crazy thoughts or crazy ideas. And it's really, I don't know, it's really annoying, and we need to move forward from that, I guess.
Well, I think we will, and I think the more we can educate people and steer them in a good direction, the better. I know for me, when I first got into this, and I'm sure you've done the same, you did the same thing. It's like we turn to organizations or people who are held in high regard in the field, or we look to Facebook groups or things just where we can share our experiences and try to cope with some of the profound impacts it's had on our lives. And it's really hard because you get steered down a lot of negative holes.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. And it's whack-a-mole. You go down one avenue and you think this person's legit, you listen to them, and then you find out a bit of information that they're not what they seem to be. And then you go down and you think you find another person, and then you find something out about that person. It's just like, oh my God. No wonder why, seriously, that's why I guess, why do we need the scientific community even to take us seriously? Because they wouldn't take us seriously anyways. Because we don't even, we are our own worst enemy, really, to be honest. So
absolutely. And I want to ask you this. I'm not sure I'm at the point where I really even care if the mainstream scientific community takes this seriously, because in my opinion, this is too critical to sit around for the next 20 years and try to convince some of these blowhards that this is a viable subject.
See, this is, for me, the biggest sticking point with, I would say, mainline, and I hate this term, ufologist. I prefer UFO researcher, because ufologist implies you're a doctor, and we're not a doctor of anything. We've either experienced something weird or we've seen something weird, and we just want to know more. But these people, I forget what I had a brain fart where I was going with this. But
well, I was going there with you, so wherever you go.
Basically, the scientific community, they're never, ever, ever going to be able to grasp what this phenomenon is, because it acts and maneuvers in such ways that it's not it's not coherent to be studied scientifically. When you want it to do A, it does B, and then when you want it to do B, it does C. In my own personal experiences, there's no way to qualify or quantify what happened to me, with one exception. Um, there, there is a researcher. His name's Joshua Cutchin, and he's written a book, "The Brimstone Deceit," and it has to deal with paranormal events and your sense of smell. And in the book and a few podcasts I've heard him on, he stated that in your dreams you cannot smell. Now, in my own personal experience, where I was in the presence of, and I will not say aliens because I do not know that they were aliens. I don't know what they were. I'll just say the others. I had the smell of earth because it took place on my grandmother's farm in the mid '80s, and I just could smell that. I can smell that right now. It's one of those memories that will never go away. But I can't qualify that, or I can't quantify that. I can't take that in my head and show it to you or to a scientist and replicate that. But I guess there's a little bit of, evidence in my opinion that whatever happened to me really did take place. And it was a really profound experience. Another thing I feel very confident about is the phenomenon, if you are open to it, definitely will guide you throughout your time on this earth. And what I mean by that is it kind of manifests itself into, maybe you're researching something and you hit a dead end. And maybe you are up in the middle of the night and you're thinking, I'm looking at this problem the wrong way, and you fall asleep, and it's either a dream or and I shouldn't say they, because then I imply that they are doing it, but I don't know. It's weird. They give me at least a little breadcrumb trail to follow. And I've explained it to other researchers and some of my family that it's like doors continue to open for me. But if I veer a little bit left or a little bit right from that breadcrumb trail, the door closes. It's so strange, and that's the best way I can articulate what's happened to me, at least in my own personal life, with this phenomenon. And I feel that I've interacted with it quite a few times in different forms. Some not so great, and some pretty profound experiences. So,
and that is really interesting. And I think, I talked to Nick Redfern as one of my good friends, and we have conversations about this and the way whatever this is interacts with us. And I found that too, when I'm on the right path. It's like you say, one door after the other just opens up, and it's incredible to me. I feel like that's been my whole trip since I got into this in a public sense. It's like, whoa, the doors just have opened up, and I feel like we're both moving in an important direction. So that's great.
For
So
sure.
we're going to go to a break in about 5 minutes, but I want to talk about your personal experiences, because this is why you're here, because of what happened to you. So to start from the beginning.
All right. I don't know exactly if it was 1984 or 1985. The only reason why I say that is because Albert Rosales has a book about humanoids. And the one book is from 80 to 84. And on the left-hand side of that book, the cover, there is what you would call a grave, but it's more cute. And that's exactly what I experienced that summer evening at my grandmother's house, which this experience, and I guess I will say, I will throw this caveat out there, it is a weird experience. I cannot quantify or qualify it, and I still don't understand it. But basically, I would stay there 2 weeks at a time at my grandmother's house in Nathaniel, Michigan, and it was a summer night. She had fallen asleep. She did not have a bedroom for me, so I slept in her bed. And through her door, you could see a big bay window if her door was open, and it was open. And for some reason, something just woke me up, and it didn't tell me, but I just felt the sense of look out the window, look out the bay window. And the best way I could describe it is a Apollo rocket. Basically what SpaceX has now, kind of landing in reverse. Instead of taking off, it was landing, the thrusters were sucking it down to Earth, and basically in front of her house. And the next thing I know, it was totally bright. It looked just like the Apollo rocket. The next thing I know, I'm outside. But it felt so dreamlike, and I was floating, not very high off the ground, but just enough off the ground that I was not dragging my feet or anything. And I could see that I was in the presence of these, again, I will not say aliens because I don't know that they were aliens. I will say others. I will say beings, but I don't know that they're aliens because I didn't go anywhere. At least I don't remember that part. And they basically floated me around her property until we got to the right-hand side of her house where there was a cornfield. And it was probably August because the corn was taller during that time. And all of a sudden, out of the cornfield, a 7-foot typical gray, a typical looking gray, not these cute ones that were, nice looking, a communion looking Whitley Strieber gray 7-foot tall being came out of the corn. And I had mentioned this to Mike Clellan too. I had heard owls hooting in the background during this experience. Never saw any owls. And he's got some interesting research that points to people who have the permutation of Christopher, Christoph, sometimes have these experiences more than other people who have different names. I don't know what that means, but it's just a little sidebar to this little weird thing that happened to me. And the next thing you know, Erica, I remember being back in my grandmother's bed. I'm looking back out the bay window, and the Apollo rocket, instead of landing, it's taking off, and it was gone. Next morning, it was like nothing had even happened. I asked my grandmother, "Did you see that?" She's like, "What are you talking about, Chris?" I'm like, "Did you see that rocket?" She's like, "No, there was no rocket. You were just dreaming." And then it literally sat with me for 34 years before 34 years before I came back to remember in detail that I'd always.
That's so interesting, and I've got to cut you off there because we're going to break. But we will be right back in here with Chris Wolford, and I'm Erica Lukes. You're listening to UFO Classified. Stick around because the best is yet to come.
Stand by.
This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
With Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
The Fenton Files, where it's all connected.
You see, whoever controls technology controls the world.
Come explore a universe full of possibilities. Every Monday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. The Fenton Files. Go where no other show has gone before.
And let me just say that it invaded my mind with such force. I thought I was going to explode into the atmosphere.
Whether it be UFOs, aliens, conspiracies, or even consciousness, your host, Lorraine Fenton, has a file for that. The Fenton Files. Fenton Files. Your journey to the truth is but a file away. Live, Monday nights, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The Fenton Files.
Incredibly intense.
Where truth is just waiting to be discovered.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. A lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
That's just one adoption story that started at a shelter. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
What if maintaining a healthy weight was as simple as drinking a cup of coffee. With Valentis Coffee, it's that easy. Harvested from the world's most pristine coffee farms and packed with the purest ingredients on earth, Valentis takes losing weight to a completely new level. At Valentis, we believe everyone deserves a chance to be healthy and fit. It's pure, natural, healthy, and delicious. Click the Valentis Healthiest Coffee banner on the KCOR Digital Radio Network website and take the Weight Loss Guarantee Challenge. Valentis Coffee, simply the world's healthiest coffee.
Here's what happened on the last episode of Three Guys, No Ties.
All right, people from Chicago have proved to be the most likely to have had sex in the shower, according to them.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
in the survey, 86% of Chicago's inner city residents, which is almost, all of whom are registered Democrats, they say that they have enjoyed sex in the shower. And the other side of it is the other 14% said that they hadn't been to prison yet.
Three Guys, No Ties. Wednesday nights, 7 to 9 Pacific on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
I'm jumping in with my clothes on.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb, but if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back and happy Fantopia Friday. You are on KCOR Digital Broadcasting Network and listening to UFO Classified. Make sure you take a second and share information about this show. Tell your friends. It is really, I'm here for you. I'm here for us. I believe that this is a critical subject and we need to be informed and we need to look in good directions for information, and we need to turn away from things that are keeping us from finding the truth. And there are lots of those obstacles in the field. I also want to thank you for supporting me. I rely on the public to support this show, and I've had in the past couple of weeks some very wonderful people donate money to help the show, and I really appreciate that, and I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I also want to tell each and every one of you how much it means to me to see you in chat, and I just appreciate you. And I want to thank Irv Brock, who is not in chat, but I'm hoping he's listening. Irv is a wonderful human being who is a brilliant artist, and he sent me for Christmas a painting that he did, a portrait of me, and it was so special. So I'm going to frame that. And thank you, Irv. You rock. I also want to give a shout out to Fran Ridge and Rich Vitello, who've done so much work on Madar. And I have a friend in chat, Northern UFOs, who purchased Madar. And so now we are both working on that, and we hope to make great strides. My guest this evening is someone who has done a lot of kind of underground research. He talks a little bit about it, but is not one of those people who is out there looking to have his ego stroked. He cares about the subject. He wants to make a difference, and he wants to know what sort of games are being played. And let me tell you, there are a lot of games being played, especially right now, and it's important that you understand them. When we left off, Chris was talking about his first encounter back in 1984, and he was mentioning a 7-foot gray and then asking his grandmother if she had witnessed this, and she didn't. But Chris, continue where you left off.
Yeah, the next morning, it was like nothing had basically happened in my grandmother's mind, but me, I knew something had happened. And then, like I said, it wasn't until much later in my life did I realize there was something to this. And then only in the last, I would say, 4 years have I really dug down and tried to figure out what I've had happen to me. But then when you look at the grand scope of things with my weird life, I guess, it kind of makes sense because it was not the only experience I've ever had. I also had a experience in Sanibel Island in, I would say, 1992. Directly, if where we were on the beach, you could directly draw a straight line to Pensacola, Florida, which would be around the area of Gulf Breeze. And this was the tail end of the flap in Gulf Breeze. But we did see there was 12 of us, 12 other or 11 other people, witnesses, who saw the same thing that I did. And there were 3 glowing orange balls pretty high up in the sky, but not like in space, but pretty high up, higher than what there was one gentleman that was in our group that had said it was a boat mast, and both my dad and I were like, that's not a boat mast, it's too tall for being a boat mast. And it's the 3 lights were doing stuff, maneuvers that aircraft or even a boat mast couldn't do. It was just an interesting experience, and it lasted maybe 10 to 15 minutes. And there was, like I said, multiple witnesses. It was at the tail end of the Gulf Breeze experience over there. And then I would say my other UFO encounter was 93. I was in middle school. I went to go to my bus stop. I was walking to my bus stop, which is maybe less than 500 yards from my house. And I got this feeling all of a sudden when I was walking towards the bus stop that something was watching me or somebody was watching me. So I turned around, and no sooner than I turn around, I see a Bob Lazar sport model silver disc daylight sighting of this craft, and it's just hovering there above this tree, maybe another 100 feet off the tree. And as soon as I said, "Oh my," it blinked out and it was gone. It was just disappeared. It didn't fly away. It just blinked right out and was gone. And then I would say my other weird UFO experience was March of 2016. I was on my way to a MUFON conference. I was leaving my house. And this is, for me, the most weird experience. But if you're a student of this field and you're a student of cases, you know that this is not unique, that this happens. So I go to step out of my house, and I'm going to go to this conference that featured Grant Cameron and Peter Robbins and a few other researchers. And all of a sudden this voice entered my mind that was not my own and said, "If you go to this conference, we will no longer interact with you." And it's all it said. And it was the weirdest thing. I basically kind of chuckled, said, "Yeah, whatever. I went on my way, went to the conference, didn't really, yeah, it was profound and it was a weird experience, but it wasn't going to deter me from not going. I mean, what are you going to do? So I kind of wanted to make this, whatever it was, angry and see if it would provoke some other kind of response. And it hasn't. And since then, I really have not had really UFO, so to speak, weird experiences. I have had weird experiences because I've delved into a little bit of chaos magic when I probably shouldn't have, and I've got a weird response from that. And I've since then I have not done any more of that because it kind of affected my family a little bit, so I chose not to go down that path anymore. But yeah, those are my experiences with UFOs. So.
And you bring up something really important and something that probably our listeners don't really understand. And I've had Jeff Ritzmann on the show, and I want you to go back and listen to my show with him when you guys have a second, because Jeff Ritzmann talks a lot about that and has done some research just about the chaos magic, and so is Sue Demeter St. Clair. And this is an integral part, and you can see this with what we're going to talk about in a little bit with what the Collins elite was kind of experimenting with. So tell us a little bit about chaos magic.
It's basically, and again, I'm not a practitioner. I'm only like a very amateurish person who kind of looked at it from the outside, was listening to a few podcasts, and it was interesting to me because they were getting and provoking this, I would say, energy to manifest in certain ways. And at least in my own personal experience, basically the way I had learned to do it was ask for something and then just forget about it. Now, there'd probably be some chaos magic practitioner right now that says, no, Chris, that's totally the way, that's wrong, and you're doing it wrong, and that's not the way to do it. But that's how I got a response in my life just in this last year. Things happening in my house. And then when it affected my daughter, that's when I chose to shut it down, because it can reach out and touch you. That's why, like, people who want to have paranormal experiences, no, you don't, because I don't know what's on the other side of that. I don't even know what you would call that. The other side. I don't even know what's on the other side. You don't know what you're interacting with. You know, you could be interacting with a demon. You could be interacting with a multi-dimensional thing. I don't know. It's just, you're taking a gamble. You're taking a risk. I did, and I didn't pay dearly for it, but I will say it did mess with my family enough to basically, for me, to shut it down, totally ignore it, and it did go away, but that was good enough for me. I got what I wanted out of it. But I guess people definitely use this technique to summon UFOs. I mean, we know that, what's his name, the rocket science guy,
Jack Parsons.
He was very much into this. And he and our good friend Ron L. Hubbard, the leader of Scientology, were definitely got interesting things out in the desert to manifest themselves. So it's a known commodity that you can do that, and you get certain things to interact with you, so to speak. But just be careful what you ask for, because it can affect you, and it's not always a good thing. So
yes, exactly, and that's what Jeff Ritzmann has said on the show. As we've had, I've had private conversations with not only him but Greg Bishop and about this, and it's serious. And I think sometimes when we're younger, you know, we play with the Ouija board, or we do all sorts of things that we don't really understand the very serious ramifications when we're inviting energy in. Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, when we look back, and you brought Jack Parsons up and Ron Hubbard, and that was very, very important. And that's something that Nick Redfern talks about in the book that I tell all of you have to get, which is Final Events. And that is something that's, you know, certain people in different branches of the government, they wanted to utilize this technology. And so they did this, they invited things in, and that did not work out for some of the people involved. But tell us, what do you know? Let's delve into this, and let's talk about the Jack Parsons. Let's talk about Aleister Crowley and some of the early beginnings of the Collins elite, and, in my opinion, kind of what we're seeing now and some of the key players of the aviary.
Well, they wanted, like you said, they wanted to use it as a weapon. But from my own personal reading of that book and talking to Nick too about this subject, it was my understanding that there were some members of the Collins elite that were basically religious, and they wanted to use religion as a weapon, so to speak, but they didn't realize what they kind of were going to be weaponizing, so to speak. And then when it killed a scientist, it kind of like backfired on them, and they wanted to kind of shut it down. I don't think they did shut it down. You know, our good friend Tom DeLonge, in some of his older interviews, he doesn't talk directly about that, but he definitely does kind of hint towards, they're evil aliens and they're not good, they're bad news. And I don't know if he's trying to sow the narrative of that same Collins elite. It seems that way. I've kind of been told that's kind of the same incarnation that he's trying to aim towards. Now, whether that is true or not, what he's dealing with, I don't know. I'm not privy to that. But I will say, if it is, then we're in a world of hurt. I mean, that's not good. I mean, that's telling the public and you and me that there's people in our government, not that everybody in the government's bad, but there's people who are literally like psychotic and who want to weaponize this ancient technology, I would say, and use it for benefit of whatever. I don't know if it's power and they want to be able to use it against the public or enemies. I don't know. It is interesting that they would even do that, but you look at like the CIA and what they've done over the years, and it kind of was like not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, they like to do weird stuff, and the public just is not aware of this. It's kind of scary.
It is scary, and this is something. I mean, you are one of the handful of people in this field that gets it, and I've been pretty adamant on every one of my shows to mention final events, to mention what is going on, and on each of my shows, I very strategically bring in people that can give information about this, because this is very serious and this is exactly what's going on right now. And we need to be aware that there are people in positions of power that, for whatever reason, like you say, trying to utilize this technology for their own financial gain, or whether they're trying to create this fear-based mentality to kind of spur on Armageddon. I mean, we don't know, but this is real. This is happening, and every game that is being played now I believe is connected with this kind of stuff.
For sure. I mean, I've seen, and I've taken so much heat in this field for even taking time seriously. And it's not that I'm taking him seriously. I'm just watching what he does. And it's funny, certain UFO researchers will say, oh, he's just phooey, he's in it for the money, he's in it for the fame, he whatever. But they never actually listen to what he has said. And it's scary to think that, like, you're going to just make a bold statement as it's X when really it's Y and Z.
Exactly.
Man, I mean, you call yourself a researcher?
Exactly.
I mean, I get it. People don't have all the time in the day, or they don't have the time to delve into this little niche thing. But if you do, and you look at it through a different lens, a lens of just looking at it for what it's worth, you are going to see that there's some really weird connections that he has made, and and again, I don't know if it's he's made it or like Grant Cameron says, they came to him. I don't know. I'm leaning more towards they came to him and they chose him because he had the ego. Now, to me, now going forward, whenever I'm going to be on a show or a podcast or whatever, or if I choose to, I'm not going to make Tom the center of the universe anymore, because he's just a puppet of the puppeteer. But people don't want to look at the other people that are involved. They don't really care. They just see it as, oh, it's Hal Puthoff, it's Chris Mellon, it's Steve Justice, it's Louis Elizondo. Oh, and by the way, it's also Jim Semivan. Oh, and by the way, there's a video on YouTube which was put out through To the Stars Academy, which in this video, Hal Puthoff, and it's I sent it to you, I believe, Erica, where
yes,
Hal Puthoff mentions that Christopher Kit Green, former CIA Weird Desk operator from 63 to 83, he was the one that told Hal Puthoff to join the effort of Tom DeLonge. Now, I had heard this a long time ago. Nobody believed me People didn't want to believe me, but I guess it's true. And because it is true, that's a very interesting thing. And again, it's kind of like every 2.0 all over again, or even NIDS 2.0, because it's all former NIDS people.
Yes. Yeah.
So.
Yep. Exactly, and that's what's so interesting. And I think, like you said, for me to sit back and watch some of these quote unquote researchers who say, "Oh, it's just the money, it's just blah blah blah." I mean, that's really short sighted and really foolish on their part for them to make these bold statements without really stepping back and looking at the bigger picture, because there is a really big picture here, and it's something that we need to be aware of. And I've said this on every show where I talk about this, but if Tom DeLonge or anybody in To the Stars Academy wants to come on the show and talk about this, I am all game. I would love to hear their side of things. Right now, for me, looking at this and looking and really analyzing, sitting back and analyzing their first press conference, to me, there were pretty key statements in there that raised every hair on my body. And they were statements, like this is things that, and I wish I could quote one of them, and I'll have to look back at it, but I mean, this is alarming. This is, we need to have weapons. We need to I mean, it was this, kind of the drum beating of the fact that this is not a good thing, and that we need to empower ourselves with technology to combat the evil alien,
Yeah, it was an interesting press conference for sure. I mean, they would say anomalous aerial threat. Luis Elizondo dealt with that. And then he admits that the government had a program that is still going currently, but that's all they do is study anomalous aerial threats. They don't call them UFOs. We kind of know that, though, from Paul Dean's work. That guy is an amazing researcher. Everybody needs to follow his work. Paul Dean's amazing. He's got some really good documents that basically show for sure the government was still very much interested after 1969. After Blue Book closed, the Air Force and a lot of government agencies definitely were still very, very, very much wanting to keep tabs on what this phenomenon was. Now, I guess with Tom DeLonge's group, people are saying it's nothing because he's paying these people, which he probably is paying these people, because I don't think they would just come on board unless it really is an operation of some sort, which I'm leaning more towards, because like you said, they're trying to present the evil alien aspect, that this is bad, that this is not good for humanity. But yet at the same time, they're trying to basically tell us, oh, we want you to fund us to basically build ARV. Which is,
yeah, and I think that's just a smokescreen, to be quite honest with you.
But honestly, though, look, Erica, I want to say that I said this on another show. I would not be surprised if Lockheed Skunk Works does not supply them with something, even though they didn't raise enough money to build something like that. I have a feeling, because if this truly is an operation, you kind of have to walk the public towards, yes, we do have TR-3B Black Mantas, and we do have ARVs, and we had them a long time. No, we couldn't tell you what they were, because we couldn't allow Iraq or Russia or Syria to know that we had these technologies. But now we can bring them out. No, they're not for life-saving measures. No, they're not for becoming an Uber to take you to San Francisco in 3 seconds. We're still going to use them for death and destruction. They're not going to say that it's going to be for the betterment of man. It's going to basically be the narrative of we need it for our security. And it kind of, I hate to say this, but Gary McKinnon kind of alluded to that. Now, whether people believe him or not, I can't make them believe him or not. But it is interesting that he did find some interesting stuff on NASA's website and a few other websites of non-terrestrial officers and stuff like that. There's definitely a secret space program. If anybody says there's no secret space program, they're foolish, because there's stuff that flies out of Vandenberg all the time that you and I don't know what it is. So hence it's a secret space program. No, I'm not saying that they're flying the ARVs, but it's definitely secret because you and I are not privy to that information.
Right, but it's not the secret space program where the blue avians are coming in.
No,
and,
no, it's not the Corey Good. No. Oh, jeez, Pete. Oh, Corey.
Yeah,
I honestly think he's an operation, though. I really do think he's an operation of some sort, too. To muddy the waters.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting, and I feel in a weird way, I feel bad because I don't know if he knows. I don't know if anybody that is involved in this understands that. I think it's all such a freaking trip to me, and it's such a mess.
I'll make it easy for you, Erica. It's called mind control. You got to remember the people that we're dealing with, these former CIA people, these former NSA people, they all are masters in mind control. They've mastered this ability a long time ago. So that doesn't surprise me that they could get somebody like that. Maybe he was in the Army. In fact, I think he does have some records that show that he was in the military. So there's your gateway right there. That's all you need. And you just pick a person, and there you go. You're off to the races.
Well, and like you say, we've got to go to a break. But Grant Cameron talks about the messiahs and talks about their flaws and how they're kind of preyed upon to be the spokespeople. And this is interesting. We're going to talk about that. I am here with Chris Wolford, who is a brilliant researcher, and you're getting to know more about him tonight. Make sure you stick around because, like I say, the best is yet to come. We'll catch you on the other side of the break.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at ufoclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico, and the rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Welcome back, and it is with much gratitude that I am here tonight. And I mentioned this at the beginning of my show that I feel so grateful to have all of you in my life. And although I've not met most of you, to me you're still my family, and we're all here and we're in this together. We're looking for answers, we're looking for support, and it is really vital that we work together and we move this forward, because there are some pretty heavy games going on in this field. Before I get back to my guest, I want to just give a shout out to the best station owner and producer on the planet, Tina Marie, who operates the station with integrity, who supports her show, her guests, her show hosts, and she has got amazing shows. And we want to welcome Lorraine Fenton to the lineup coming December 4th. She will be on Monday at 8 p.m. I did a show with Lorraine, and we talked about my experiences with MUFON, and they would pretty much blow your mind, so you should go look for that show. And then we've also got, Dave Cook, who I just want to say I love Dave. He has a show on Sunday nights. I think he is or Sunday afternoons at 2 p.m. And I want you to go listen to that. He's a paranormal researcher. Support him. It's called Ghostly Hour with David Cook, and he gets into chat sometimes. And then we've got Aaron, who has a show. And Aaron, thank you for always being in here, being in chat, and supporting everything. I know you're probably sitting with Tina Marie right now in the Vegas station, and I'm a little jealous. I'm going to have to come down there and bust the party up, but I want to just give a shout out to all the wonderful hosts and Tim Beckley on Thursday nights who are on KCOR, and say I am really grateful to be on a station with integrity. And again, I said at the beginning of the show, make sure when you are supporting networks that you look at the people that own the networks and you ask yourself, is this person a sexist, racist, homophobic bully? And if they are, then I would definitely look at all of the hosts on that network and say, these are people I don't want to support until they can have enough integrity to be on a network that does not operate like this. This is really important. My guest tonight is Chris Wolford, and he is a researcher, and you can tell by listening to him that he knows his stuff. We were talking about the Collins elite, about mind control, about what's going on with DeLonge, Corey Good, all of this stuff, but this is all, it interweaves, and there's so much going on, and I believe, with the evil alien agenda and Bill Tompkins, and you see some of this with MUFON and the direction they're going, and it's all related. So let's get back into that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if your listeners are aware, but Robert Bigelow is a part of DeLonge's operation. This is fact. This is no longer fiction. This is no longer conjecture or rumors. This is fact. He has been part of DeLonge's operation as far as I could tell from my sources from back in May. Remember that famous 60 Minutes interview during what was Memorial Day weekend? As far as back during that time, he was with DeLonge. And I wouldn't say he's the main financial supporter, but he is definitely one of the financial supporters of DeLonge's effort. And it is interesting that, again, it's like NIDS 2.0 because you have Hal Puthoff, Jacques Vallée was associated with this, Kit Green, which, again, I don't know how much he did with NIDS, but I'm aware that he did do a few things for them. Colin Kelleher, if I'm saying his name right, he is part of DeLonge's camp too, and people don't realize that. He's a consultant for this DeLonge operation, and it's really interesting, but people don't want to talk about that aspect. They dangle that carrot of money in front of a ufologist, and they bite every single time. And it's usually not that case. It's not always about the money. It's about controlling people, controlling groups, getting them to do your bidding, so to speak. Disseminate crap information.
Yes. And I want to just highlight that point: doing them to do your bidding. And I've talked to more people that I can even count this week that say that's exactly what MUFON has going on. They get these good, talented people who are willing to dedicate personal time and money to collecting data for them.
Well, I find it really interesting, and I've brought this up to numerous researchers in our field, big names, little names, names in the middle, that both that new group, SCU, which is headed up by Rich Hoffman and Robert Powell, I believe, and MUFON are trying to grab on the coattails, if not grab on the coattails, working with Tom DeLonge on that Tic Tac video. I find that very interesting. I mean...
Oh, dear.
And then I got attacked for saying basically MUFON does the same thing that DeLonge does. But at least with DeLonge, you've gotten books, but with MUFON, all you get is a little card that says you're a member, and that's it. And maybe a pat on the back, but probably not. So.
Well, oh wow. I mean, that's really interesting, and it's sad it's just, it really, like I say, I encourage people who are involved with MUFON to step away. And if you've got organizations that you've worked so hard for in each individual state, then please, break off and start your own group, because honestly, having the MUFON name behind you at this point is just a detriment to all of us, to be honest.
Yeah, I honestly believe Greg Bishop has it right, that big groups should be broken up into smaller groups of maybe onesie, twosie, maybe 3 or 4, maybe max, and research that way. Because the big group, all that data is, who knows where it's going, first and foremost, okay? You're paying this behemoth to collect data from said citizens, and then said data goes to God knows where, or it did go onto a TV show which had to lie and make up stuff to garner support and viewers. But it just...
And are you talking about Hangar 1?
Yeah, of course I am.
And, I will say, because I worked for, Roger Marsh in the communications department, I have to say I have mixed feelings about Hangar 1, because I know Paul, who was the director, and he is an incredible person, and I have a lot of respect for him. I know, Ben and Tony and a few people that were in Hangar 1, and I support them, and they were so proud of what they did. But I think what, some people don't realize is, when you've got a show like this, you need to have exciting content, and there were cases that the producers wanted to talk about that weren't in the MUFON database. And guess what? After when they were put in the MUFON database miraculously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, I'm not here to bash MUFON. I'm just pointing out some interesting little things. Again, whether anything comes of the DeLonge situation with regards to MUFON and STU, the new group, I don't know. But it is interesting to note that they are both trying to work towards that goal. So we shall see.
It is. And I as much as it seems like I am bashing MUFON, I guess I am.
Well,
for me, just whatever. Because for me, and I keep going back to this because of my own personal experiences, because I understand and I care about the people that are involved, and I care about this subject. And I think sometimes you have to shine a light on things that are ineffective or really downright destructive to what's going on. And so if I keep talking about this, it's because change needs to be made. It's vital.
No, for sure. I agree. I can only talk about the aspect of like Michigan MUFON, which the head guy for Michigan MUFON is wonderful, but he has no support. And it's sad.
So who is the state director?
I can't say his last name to save my life, but William Konskalinsky, I believe.
Oh, he is. You know what? Seriously, and between William and I've been asked to speak at different MUFON events, and the state directors, some of these state directors are freaking amazing human beings. And they're, like Ruben Uriarte, he is a friend of mine. He's been a mentor. I care about the individuals and the people in these chapters, and they've done good work in the fact that they're raising public awareness, and they really feel like they're empowering people. And I think that individually, or when you're looking at it at a state level, they're doing important things. But I think it's to that point where this is no longer beneficial to be, if you're not willing to, as a state director or researcher, to step up and ask headquarters where the data is going, why the executive director is making a 6-figure income per month, and some of these questions, things aren't going to change.
No, but I'm glad somebody's fighting that fight and asking hard questions. It's good that we ask hard questions, but people don't like that though. So,
well, that's why this field has been allowed to turn into the ridiculous, dysfunctional, soap opera that it has, because people don't want to ask questions. They don't want to make change. They don't want to call out bad behavior. And we have to do that. And And with on that note, I want to get back to, because you know so much about the Bigelow thing, and I want to go back to this because this is important. I had not, if it wasn't for you, I really wouldn't have understood the gravity of the fact that Bigelow was involved in the DeLonge project.
Yeah, and I don't know, again, I know as far as much as he is a financial backer, he is part of this operation. What that means, I don't know. I mean, we could only discern from what history has shown us before, and he has had the group NIDS that basically was a private scientific community that studied Skinwalker Ranch and closed those findings to just him because he paid for it, and it was not public knowledge or ever will be. Possibly could be, some of it could be. Maybe with Jeremy Corbell's work, I don't know. Maybe even with George Knapp's work, maybe, I don't know. But it is interesting that DeLonge. Now, again, I don't know. It would be really interesting to find out whether DeLonge came to him or did Bigelow go to DeLonge. I don't know. I can't answer that. I do not know. I will try to find that out. But it's been a tough go trying to find information out because basically once the announcement came down, people have kind of like dried up, their sources kind of dried up a little bit, and really nobody wants to talk about it or really do some really hard investigation. You're the only person that out of all the people that I deal with have taken me seriously, really. I mean, I shouldn't say only you, but really you're the only one that is understood and the complexity and the gravity of the situation, whereas other people just see it as, again, it's a crap show and it's only about the money and he's stroking his ego and blah, 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 which, again, those are all silly, mundane things that we really, it's great because if it is operation, they're doing it wonderfully because they're getting those UFO researchers not to go any further. They're not giving them the look any further or scratch a little bit harder. But this has been done time and again and time and again. I can't tell you how many times other operations that were very similar. I mean, there was one in the 80s with Bob Exler with Bobby Ray Inman. Now, Inman, I'm convinced, is a part of this DeLonge operation because he was kind of mentioned, so to speak, in the interview with Joe Rogan. He wasn't mentioned by name, but he definitely was alluded to in the interview. Bobby Ray Inman, who was deputy director at, and I'm going to screw this up, I believe he was deputy director at the CIA and the head of the NSA. Also, he was the head of the DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency. So he was definitely in the know, and he was a rear admiral in the Navy in the late 70s through the early 80s through the Reagan administration. And he had this project that Bob Exler was working on called Cosmic Journey, which is very similar to what DeLonge is doing currently. I firmly believe this is like Cosmic Journey 2.0. Only the difference is they're not going to take this show on the road, whereas Cosmic Journey, that was the whole goal, is they were going to have a circus-like atmosphere, bring this information that, yes, UFOs are real, aliens are real, and yes, we have recovered craft and we have recovered bodies, and we're going to bring it to every single city in America. And that's what this Exler thing, or Bobby Rand and Exler operation was going to be. But what happened was Bob Exler started to record conversations without Bobby Ray Inman knowing, and then released those to Timothy Good. And once that happened, he cut off all contact with Bob Exler and had denials and I don't know what you're talking about, and the total of disassociation with Bob Exler. And then we get Bob Exler a couple years later with the Guardian video that turns out to be a total hoax, and it burnt him, and he never recovered from that. And he basically cowered away from MUFON and just went away into the private sector and really never really talked about UFOs ever again. So I find it very interesting that Bobby Raymond is definitely a guy who would be in the know. And he mentions in these conversations, you can find him on YouTube, he mentions recovered craft a few different times. And he's not talking about cars. He's not talking about aircraft. He's talking about alien vehicles. At least his terminology, not mine. But that's groundbreaking. And again, if I'm correct, and when I do feel in my gut that I am, that Inman is part of this DeLonge operation, it just makes sense because he would be an advisor to DeLonge because he's been doing this for so long. I mean, he's done this back in the 80s, so it's nothing new for him, really. So.
And it's interesting because I am just sitting here looking at his Wikipedia page. Mm-hmm. And he said, you're right, he did serve as the director of naval intelligence from 74 to 76 of naval intelligence. Then he moved to Defense Intelligence Agency and then, blah, blah, blah. This is really incredible. But what, if any, connection is there to the Navy? Because I have heard the Navy come up quite a few times with maybe some questions about the evil alien agenda or the Collins elite. Is there any connection?
Again, I would say there is, but again, I don't know as far as what the Navy has figured out that the Air Force and the Army hasn't. Or were they the ones that they decided, or whoever decided, they were going to be the gatekeepers of this knowledge? Because I've heard that time and again, of people saying, we're from the Department of Navy, or we're from Naval Intelligence, and we're going to tell you X, Y, and Z about this information. And it's just interesting that comes up and comes up and comes up. Now with the Collins Elite, I believe it was with the Air Force, though. So I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you hear so much, and again, it's like, how do you verify it? I mean, it's elusive, and you have to put the pieces of the puzzle together. And then this is where I rely on, like the research of Greg Bishop or Nick Redfern or two friends of mine who I can bounce things off of. And I wanted to say, Final Events, you got to get the book. I've mentioned that a million times, and you also have to get Project Beta that Greg Bishop wrote, and that talks about, again, this same type of scenario playing out in the field. But this is, let's elaborate on that and the kind of the Richard Doty aspect of things.
Yeah,
who's resurfaced.
Richard Doty is resurfaced, and I will say, from my own personal opinion, I do not see a correlation between the Benowitz situation and what DeLonge is doing. I don't believe Tom DeLonge's being Paul Benowitz. I think this is totally something different. We've never seen something like this in the UFO field. And for researchers to say that we have, no, we haven't, because this is the most candid information that is coming from people who, again, were in the positions to know. They're telling the public, yes, we are going to be bringing you X, Y, and Z shortly. Hold the phone, and shortly we'll be with you and tell you. I don't know what. I know that they were working on the Tic Tac video, getting that released, and that was released. You can find it out there on the internet. But as far as Richard Doty and him coming back into the fold, I find it very interesting. Because and I've interacted with Richard Doty, which a lot of people either think it's silly to do that because the guy's a known liar, or you take a look at and again, I'm only going off of what Christopher Kit Green has said, or was stated in the documentary, you can watch it, Mirage Man, and he says, if Richard Doty's talk on UFOs, you believe what he says. And that's coming from Christopher Kit Green. So, again, he's a spook, okay? He's a medical doctor, but he's still a spook. He worked at the CIA. So I guess you can take it with a grain of salt, but still, it's something to be said if if Richard Doty's talking UFOs, you should believe him. Well, I took him up on that advice and engaged him on Facebook and asked him a few questions, one being about the DeLonge situation, and he has no opinion. He's not watching it. He doesn't care. But I find that really weird because it's the biggest fish in the room, and he's not talking about it.
And isn't it interesting that certain people have reemerged since the DeLonge stuff has happened? I mean, give me a break.
Robert Collins, who is part of the Avery, too, he is, I wouldn't say he has reemerged, but he has put out some information lately, again, via Facebook, which is a great tool to muddy the water, to basically tell a tale. And it really, to me, it's only Grant Cameron and I have been paying attention to what Robert Collins is saying. And it's pretty interesting what he is saying, because he's saying that Doty is a liar about the fact that he knows a lot more than what he says. It's weird. He lies about certain aspects about the UFO phenomenon, but other aspects that are like more on an individual basis, he's correct on.
So it's isn't that interesting? I know. Yeah, exactly. And we've got to take a break. This is our last break for the evening. I am going to be back with Chris Wolford, who is an incredible researcher, and you could tell that by listening to him. Make sure you tune in next Friday and tell people about UFO Classified. Again, thank you, Tina Marie. You rock. I love KCOR. We'll be right back.
Stand by.
This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes. The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Gee, it's so quiet. Too quiet. Terribly quiet. Awfully quiet.
Do you have an hour to kill? Well, crank up those EVPs, spirit boxes, and walk the haunted halls of the unknown with UK's very own paranormal investigator, David Cook.
You guys ready for this?
The Ghostly Hour, live Sunday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern.
And now, you're mine.
Come hear first-hand accounts of some of the most famous ghost sightings, photos, and videos from around the world. Skeptics, believers, and spirits both good and bad. Welcome the Ghostly Hour, hosted by David Cook. Live every Sunday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
There's a show that's not afraid to ask questions no one else will ask. Not afraid to say
what no one else will say.
Friday nights at 7 p.m. Listen to Restricted Airspace with Tina Marie, where no topic is off limits. Conspiracy theories, paranormal activities, hoaxes, the unexplained. It's what we talk about. Question everything. Trust no one. Restricted Airspace with Tina Marie. Friday at 7 p.m. on the KCOR Digital Radio Network out of Las Vegas, Nevada.
That's
good.
Turn your radio up.
I love it. All the music I want to hear.
This is my station.
Paranormal. Somewhere between abnormal and paranormal.
The U.S. military holds the ability to time travel.
Jeremy Scott asks the questions that we're all dying to know.
Wow, that's a remarkable question.
Watch your step. Hide under your blankets.
The show that is going to make you think.
Prepare yourself for what you're about to hear.
This transmission is coming to you.
You're riding into the Paranormal.
Live Saturday night, 6 to 9 on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. Jump onto the Celestial Highway and travel at the speed of light. Into hyperspace. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. She navigates you through the cosmic tides of mysticism into the world of covert technology, UFOs, mystical sciences, and the world of unforeseen forces.
You get to really sort of enjoy a bizarre ride.
Listen live, Friday nights, 9 p.m. Pacific.
For Hyperspace.
The one show that blows the whistle off our government black ops projects. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven.
Solaris Blue Raven.
Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Want to take a ride? Take a ride. Take a ride.
You're listening to
UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back, and thank you for spending your Friday with me. I want to give a shout out to Tom, to Susan, to Joe, Jeff, Northern UFOs, Jeff, Gabrielle, Doug Down Under, all my friends in chat. Thank you for listening. And every day I get messages from all over the world with people who have either watched my the TV show that I'm in, which is on Destination America called UFOs, The Lost Evidence, or people who listen to the radio show and want to learn more. I want to say that my audience on UFO Classified is the most intelligent, respectful audience out there, and I appreciate that. All of you want to know the truth, and all of you deserve to be respected, and I commend you for really trying to work with all of us to find those, to attain those goals. It is critical right now, especially, that we make big changes, and one of those big changes is the Black Vault investigations, which John Greenwald was on my show a month ago and made the first public announcement about the formation of this group. And yes, their data will be public, which is incredible. I am going to be the Utah State Director, and of course, my research partner, Jeff Cox, will be working with me, and we will hopefully be getting people out there, especially in Utah, to report sightings, to work with us. And then I'm also working with MADAR, and we'll have a little bit more data to go on, and hopefully we'll be able to make some groundbreaking discoveries. I'm very confident that we will. Now is the time to make change and to turn away from the old, outdated, archaic approaches to researching the subject. Chris is here tonight, Chris Wolford, and we are talking about some of the games, the deception, the disinformation that we have seen in this field, and then we're talking about the new DeLonge effort, and also we're asking questions. Why should we be concerned? And what should we look for when we're stepping back and looking at the big picture? So, Chris, you were talking about Bobby Ray and about all of this and how that played out. And now you said before we went to break that this DeLonge thing is unlike anything we've ever seen, and I absolutely agree. So keep going.
Yeah, I mean, the size, the magnitude, the money behind it, the players involved, yes, we have seen some of them with Avery, I give you that. But nothing like this has ever taken place. And for people to just simply, again, just to look at it and get that money carrot dangled in front of them and then bite at it, it's silly. It's not the money. And for people to say that, it's silly. And I can't stress it enough. I mean, I'm going to say it again. It's not about the money. It's something else. What that is, I don't know. We can speculate a little bit. I would say probably weapons in space would probably be the most likely scenario that they kind of want. They've kind of run out of boogeymen, so to speak. And I guess the next boogeyman down the line, not to be like Dr. Carol Roslin, but when they're done with the terrorist, the alien thing was going to be brought forward. Now, whether that is true, I don't know. But it is interesting that, the war on terror kind of is not as sexy as it used to be. Granted, we still get attacked here in America, but it's just not. It doesn't affect Americans like it used to. So I guess you need a new enemy to scare the crap out of the public and get them on board with being okay spending gobs of money on God knows what. I mean, you're right in the backyard of Dugway.
Oh, dear.
Who knows what we have developed? I mean,
well, that's exactly it. Exactly, and that's ground zero. I mean, literally. And if you haven't heard about Dugway, I mean, that is what Dave Rosenfeld, who is a friend of mine, has coined Area 52. And interestingly enough, I had somebody who works out there who brought me a mug from the gift shop that has aliens on it. This is Area 52. From the freaking gift shop of Dugway. I'm like, are you really? So they're, doing the old, let's make fun of this tactic, and then, we'll kind of discourage people from actually talking about what's going on out there. And we know that this a history of sightings over the base in the surrounding areas. And we also know, when I do research, I mean, you can just look at the different aerospace and defense contractors that have moved into Utah and look at what they're doing and say, wow, okay, that's pretty sweet. That's what we got going on. And that, I told you before we started the show, it's like there's some days when I love living in Utah, but I don't want to live here anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. Michigan's kind of the same way a little bit, but yeah, Utah's definitely an interesting place.
You ain't kidding. Between that and Skinwalker Ranch and all the good stuff we've got going on here, it's like, I mean, but it is kind of a little paradise for a researcher. But I mean, so with all of this, with all of the knowledge, with all of the stuff that you see, the games, the different people that are interjecting, and the same key players time and time again that have their hands in little pieces of the pie here and there. I mean, what is your take? What do you think the agenda is, truly?
To be honest, it is, for some reason, they're steering us towards this narrative that we're not alone and that this phenomenon is real, but it's a lot more dangerous than we thought previous. It's no longer an ET, cute and cuddly. It's not Close Encounters of the Third Kind alien. It's something bad. It's worse. It's an anomalous aerial threat, It's something that we need to fight against. I don't know if they're just preparing us mentally and getting us prepared for, like I said, this next stage of threat, and they need to get us on board because it would just totally be us rising up and saying, we're not going to take it, or are they totally lying to us and there's nothing behind what they're doing, not so much nefarious, but there's nothing behind it, and it's just kind of like some of the researchers say, it's just a money grab, which I don't think that is the case. I definitely do think this is something different, this is something unique, and for some reason the timing is changed. Why? I don't know. I don't know that aspect. Why now? Why in 2017? And I'm not trying to get political here, but maybe it has something to do with Trump. That maybe this is the right time to use something like a useful idiot like him for something like this. I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, bless you. Yeah, well, but I mean, and from what, I understand, I don't necessarily think he's going to be doing any favors for disclosing things. I think he's probably too wrapped up in putting out fires in his own world, but, so whatever that says about that. But I think that, and I want to say, because, for me to watch this and to have people like Ray Hernandez, again, somebody I strategically brought on the show, to have Chris Bledsoe, who I replayed the show last week. I mean, these people will tell you that the interactions that experiencers have, or like Chris Bledsoe, that he has had, have been predominantly positive. And most of the people, including myself, with the experiences that I have had, unless I've gone into places that are pretty heavy to research, have been predominantly positive. And so for me, I think it is imperative that this evil alien agenda, or, let's weaponize, or that we have a dialogue about this, and we decide as a collective how we are going to engage, because engaging whatever this is critical. And if we come at this half-cocked and say, well, we're just so egocentric that we're going to get this technology and use it for our own good. I mean, are you freaking kidding me? Do we think they are going to be okay with that? There's so many questions. This is such a broad area that we need to focus on, and nobody in this field is asking those questions.
I will say that John Burroughs, an experiencer of the Rendlesham Forest experience, he's brought up a really interesting point, and not a lot of researchers have picked up on this. But I guess Robert Bigelow is very into some sort of megahertz kind of weapon, or not so much weapon, but using megahertz as some kind of, I don't know, gizmo. I don't really know the fine nuts and bolts of that, but I will say that Bigelow is very interested in this megahertz thing, and how that relates to John Burroughs is when he had to fight to get his medical records and get them declassified from the Air Force. They basically came out and said, what happened to you was a result of this phenomenon using megahertz against said people in the field or in the forest, and that's why he's had his health problems. I find that very interesting. So I would have to do a little bit more digging on that, but I am aware that probably, again, a weaponization of space is probably the most likely candidate right now.
Well, and you bring up a great point, and I would love to get John Burroughs on the show because this is important. I mean, you look at the use of RF, or radio frequency weapons, and this is something that the defense contractors that have moved into Utah, I mean, that's what they're looking at. This is the new big wave. And this is how, the government wants to wipe out or disable our enemies' communication systems and different things. But then there's also rumors that this technology can be used to harm individuals and things. And so, I mean, this is serious. Why would Bigelow be interested in this? Is that because he wants to utilize the technology for his own gain, or because he knows that this is a part of the picture and then it needs to be studied?
Yeah, I would also add, for students of UFO history, again, to go back to Bob Exler, but he mentions back in the 80s about a little company, which is now a very big company in San Diego, the same place where Tom DeLonge is based out of, SAIC, Scientific Incorporated, Scientific Incorporated. They have been big in the UFO field in the sense of they've developed anti-gravity aircraft, or have propulsion, not aircraft, propulsion. And that's fact. They were working on that in the 80s. So I find that, and he mentions that in the Joe Rogan interview, and people, it just kind of like glosses over their head. And by the way, Bobby Ray Inman was the vice president, or the president, I can't remember. I've got so much information. For every two things that go in my head, 3 or 4 things got to go out of my head. But I know that he was a part of that company, SAIC. Bobby Ray Inman was a part of that company. So again, little bit of stuff that people don't pick up on, and then when they don't pick up on it, and they just think it's X, Y, and Z, and they don't think anything of it, they just don't think it's dangerous. They don't see the danger. I don't get that. But I guess,
well, I don't get it either, and I think it's just that, unfortunately, you see some of these people that have done great work, but they're so short-sighted and narrow-minded that they don't understand. They don't step back and look at the big picture like you do. And that this is, like I've said, and I will always say, this is imperative that we look at the big picture. And so, we're getting ready to kind of close up the show, but you've recommended some books that I want you to share with me. Share your recommendations on resources and books that people can read to learn more about this.
I would definitely point people in the direction of Joshua Cutchin and the book Brimstone Deceit. Again, that book deals with UFOs, Bigfoot, and ghosts, and how it relates to smells. It is a very interesting book. It is a very much needed book in this community because it's taking a look at this phenomenon and not just the nuts and bolts and not just the abduction phenomenon. It's taking a look at something unique, something challenging, and something not a lot of people even think of when they have the event. But I can't tell you how many times or how many cases you run across, whether it be UFO and they have a sulfur smell, or being on the craft and it smells literally like rotten eggs. It's weird. But why is that? And then you have to think about, why is that the same smell as when people encounter demons? I'm not saying that they are demons.
Yes. I was just going to say that. And then, so there you go, when you've got certain people that think this is demonic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't... another book that I would say is very much underappreciated, but is probably one of the best books in the last 10 years, is Silver Screen Saucers by Robbie Graham. It details in that book a part where there was a UFO conference that Disney held that nobody went to. Very few public people went to that conference, but it had big names during that time in the 80s. Big names. Don Ecker, Bud Hopkins, I can't think of, maybe Ed Walters, maybe, I can't remember. But big names, and nobody went to that conference. Why was it held? Most likely, and again, Robbie Graham kind of shows you in that book, there was an intelligence gathering operation. That's what it was. It was a data mining operation, basically for somebody to gather a lot of information from the researchers and a little bit maybe from the public, because the public was not really it was like a 4-day conference, and over the 4 days, not many people went from the public. It was weird. It was really, really weird. And Don Eckert says he's never had or been a part of anything like that since, where nobody showed up.
Oh, that's interesting. Can you, I would like to have you give me some links that I can post on the UFO Classified Facebook page, so I can give people references and places to go to dig for information and to start making these connections, because these are, like you say, these are really critical connections, and they're connections that everybody else seems to be overlooking because they're too busy stroking their egos, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, that's the way it rolls. But so, I mean, what other, I've got to ask you, who is your favorite researcher, or who do you really hold in high esteem?
To be honest, really, I don't have a favorite so much anymore. I mean, Joshua Cutchin is really good because he also wrote a book about paranormal and how it relates to food. And like, there's a pancake case of a UFO occupant where they gave the guy pancakes and the Air Force tested it, and it was basically buckwheat pancakes. But this guy claims that whatever this being or wherever they came from gave him pancakes. Now, that's just weird.
You know what? And I will say that if my recollection serves me, Barry Greenwood actually has that pancake.
Really?
And I think he showed it to me, and I've got to ask him specifically if that's the case. But oh my gosh, that's interesting.
No, Joshua Cutchin, there's I mean, I look up to you. I mean, you're like a beacon. See, this is the thing. Like, people think that researchers should have books. I disagree. You don't need a book. You can have a show. You can have a podcast. Hell, you can even be on Facebook and just make intelligent conversation, or make an intelligent sentence, and I'll follow you. You don't necessarily have to have a book. I mean,
well, thank you. And it's interesting because I remember when I first started out in this field, I had lots of long conversations with Richard Dolan, and and he would say, to me, the only way you're going to get respect is if you write a book and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, that's not my medium. I don't want to write a book. The information I am giving is in each radio show. It's in each time I speak. I am giving my research out there to you. And so I appreciate you saying that.
Well, I'm telling you the truth. You definitely are a person I looked up to because you want to include people. You don't want to exclude people, So.
Well, thank you, and you too. I mean, and I think that's important. And I think, I know that the people that listen to UFO Classified, it's a different group of people. They're people who care, who are respectful, who want to see change, and it's not the typical. And I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful to people like you who want to share information because you've done really important work, and that's how we're going to move forward. That's how we're going to make a difference, and like I say, shine a light on some of the dysfunction and the game playing and negative agendas that we're seeing. And I just have a really quick question. Hopefully we can get this in, but Jeff wants to know what your key interest is now in the field.
Right now, it hops around, but my main focus was on Tom DeLonge. I've kind of muted that just a little bit. My main focus now is military cases. It would be probably my main focus because they're the most credible. Not to say that the public can't be credible, but there is a lot of data to be gathered from military witnesses or people who are in the military who've experienced this phenomenon. So I would say the military cases.
Oh, that's so cool. And I'll have to have you back, and you'll have to keep me posted, and then we'll share links and just do a tag team and get information out there. And I think it's really cool. Like I said, you have been, for me, a shining light as well, because you get it. You get the bigger picture, and there are very few people who do, except for my listeners.
Well, thank you, Erica. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Oh, it's so true. So if people wanted to reach out to you, like what is the best place?
Well, I don't have a book. I don't have a website. I'm on Facebook. You can look me up, Chris Wolford, on Facebook. You'll see there's probably hundreds of Chris Wolfords, but if you click on it, there'll be a picture of, I believe, me and my wife. And then if you see UFO researcher, because I had that in the title, it's me. So, but that's how you can reach out to me. And I love talking to people about their experiences or just talking about the phenomenon in general. So.
And isn't that's so good? That's been such a gift for me too. And I feel the same way. It's like just talking to people about what they've been through. And like even last night I was at Thanksgiving dinner at a new friend's home. And I walk in there, I've got these 4-year-olds screaming, "There's the alien expert!" And they were so excited, and they had all these questions, and I wish I would have videotaped it because these little kids, they had really great questions. What did they look like? What did they want? It was great. And then the adults kind of got me at the table and started sharing experiences about, one woman in particular had this big green, she said lime green orb that was hovering outside the window, and she was with a group of girls when she was a teenager, and she said this orb came into the room, and they were all so frightened they left.
Wow.
But to hear, you're at a Thanksgiving Day celebration, and you have people that are sharing stories that would never even be interested in this topic other than they've had profound experiences and they didn't know where to go. So how freaking cool is that you can be a person for people to go to, and all of us can be.
For sure. I would say that a lot of people don't realize how many people have been affected by this phenomenon in certain ways. People just think it's the hillbilly in a trailer park who sees a UFO. That's not the case. Anybody and everybody has seen them. And the ridicule factor is alive and well, and that's why a lot of people don't report their sightings, because they don't want to deal with it, or it shakes their paradigm to their core, and they just don't want to deal with that reality whatsoever. And then maybe years down the road, they come to that and they deal with it. But
Yeah, exactly. And I think that the interesting thing and I think we really need to make sure that we understand that we don't know the boundaries between UFO, between the paranormal, ghost spirits, aliens. No, none of us knows. So we have to get over our egos and say we need to look at all of this. We need to look at all of the data. I'm Erica Lukes here with Chris Wolford, and I want to say stick around because Tina Marie will be up next with Restricted Airspace, Hyperspace with Solaris Blue Raven as follows. I love you guys. Have a wonderful and safe Thanksgiving, and we will catch you next Friday.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at UFOclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio